Hey friends, it's podcast time. All right, so this is going to be a very short version of the show tonight. I got a couple of issues I want to throw out there to you guys and let you guys know about it and what I think about them. And then we have a couple of announcements to make as far as the future and how this show is going to work and stuff like that. So we wanted to keep the regular schedule to let you guys know that we're changing schedule, and we'll go from there. So anyway, we're Almost in Agreement, almostagreement@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. Go to the website, almostagreement.com. While you're there, don't check out Voter Guide 22. That is past. I'm starting to work on Voter Guide 23, which will be a bunch of city races, and we'll see as candidates start running for those. So, yeah, we've got... I got another fight with KUB, which you know me, and I don't like KUB. We've got this crazy story about the sheriff's deputies that got refused service at McAllister's, and then schedule change announcements. I think that covers everything that I was going to cover tonight. So like I said, quick one, short one, breaking news-ish, and we'll go from there. So anyway, it's showtime, people. Okay, so first off, let's get the cat out of the bag. We're going to adjust our taping date, which means we'll be adjusting our release date to boot, because what I don't want to do is tape a show and then release it like 3 or 4 days later. So I think we're going to move. Actually, Sam and I were just chatting. We're going to either do Thursday and release Friday, or Friday and release Friday evening, or maybe Saturday morning. So look for that change this week, and we'll get regular on that. And that'll at least get me to have at least Sam in here to argue with, and maybe get the AC and Max in periodically as well. So that adjustment's coming. So be aware that is going to happen. So let's start with McAllister's and the Knox County Sheriff's Office, which is the craziest thing. And to me, the craziest thing is that I'm talking about it. And the reason I'm talking about it is because it's blowing up on the Facebook sphere of angry ridiculousness. And it's very confusing. What's actually going on. And to me, I guess the top thing that's really confusing about what's going on in this is that the Sheriff's Office and Kimberly Glenn decided they need to have an official release on the topic. So the story, as I gather, is 3 officers went in, 2 got served, the last one didn't, so they left, and then complained about it to whatever. And so it's been very unclear what participated. Let me back up. It's not clear that the first 2 officers got served, or that none of them got served, or whatever. The register person that was taking their orders, or refusing to take their orders, was a kid, maybe 18 or something like that. I've heard something about it was shift change and they were supposed to leave, and so somebody else was taking over the register and they just asked them to wait. I've heard that the officers were demanding that they get their meal comped because they're cops, and that's how they should get treated. They should get free food, whatever they feel like it. And this person working at McAllister's was like, I can't do that. The manager is in a meeting. I don't have the means to take care of that situation for you right now. And they didn't want to hear that. I don't know. Nobody knows what's going on. The sheriff's department has their official statement on it, which is saying that basically McAllister's was being dicks and not serving our officers because they're officers, which McAllister Corporate and the local owner manager of the one that this occurred at is saying that's absolutely not the policy. It's not okay by McAllister standards. And I've heard rumor of people that were in line saying that the cop was demanding the free food. I've heard rumor of people in line that said that this person that was running the register said that they were about to change shifts. They needed to get off the register so they could finish their cleaning work and get out of there because it was the end of their workday. At least of the rumor of people that have seen it or say they saw it, most of them are saying that. Most of what I've seen is that they're not saying that this person was rude or disrespectful or seemed to put on the charm of a I fucking hate cops kind of deal, and that's why I'm not going to serve you. But to me, what's most surprising about this is a story at all. Who cares? People are out here like, I'm never going to get McAllister's again. Who cares? There's a couple parts of it. You're going to take the entirety of McAllister's because of one bad employee. If the worst case scenario version of this is some punk kid who hates cops, I'm not serving you because you're a cop. if that is the case, you're going to write off a whole company because one employee. I mean, like, what are you asking? Like, that's my question. Like, what are you asking? What do you think an employee is? Like, do you really think that an employee is this fixed thing that can only do the policies of the company and cannot have their own thoughts and feelings and opinions and maybe act on those inappropriately while at work? Because I know that I do what I want. I say things that I probably are against policy for my job. So is my boss and or company to be on the hook for me stepping out of policy to do a thing? Like, it's just such a weird ism. Like, why would you write off McAllister as a whole? Like, this, the Chick-fil-A one I get. Like, it's the owner of Chick-fil-A that says it's bad to be gay, and people will refuse to eat Chick-fil-A because the owner of Chick-fil-A, the brand, is hateful towards gays. Like, that makes sense to me. But everybody else that works as McAllister's is now a cop hater because one employee supposedly acted out in a poor way about cops. It's just the weirdest. Like, I don't understand the thought process. If somebody wants to explain this to me, please, almostagreement@gmail.com, because I don't get it. I refuse to ever go back into a business because an employee there stepped out of line. And that's assuming this employee did. We don't know that yet. I've heard Backrooms talking about it. Constance is talking about it. Sheriff's Office is talking about it on their Facebook page. So many people are talking about it. But, we don't know. Okay, breaking news. Sorry. Backroom Knox just reported that it appears the cashier who refused service was closely related to the boy who was shot and killed at Austin East by KPD, not KCSO. Family members are saying this cashier was his little sister. Anthony Thompson Jr. was 17 at the time. There was a call for service, and Mr. Thompson was allegedly battered. His girlfriend's blah, 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 blah. So, according to Backroom, it has been discussed at least that this girl, in her brain, sees cops as killing her brother. I'm not comfortable serving you. And now McAllister's is the worst thing on the planet. Like, I don't, that's what I don't get. I don't get so many parts of the story. But anyway, again, the moral of the story is, like, why does the sheriff's office need to make a statement about this thing? I mean, maybe they should ask the questions before they make a statement about it. Maybe they should talk to the manager and see if they can understand what actually occurred before they make a public statement. But they did it anyway. They literally, the sheriff's office is trying to cancel McAllister's because one girl that works there didn't want to serve one of their officers. That's just fucking crazy making. Like, it's literally, I don't understand. And especially the blind follow along of, well, I love cops, so I'm not going to eat at McAllister's now either. And then there's a whole other subset of people. Well, I hate cops, and Mount McAllister is my favorite place on the planet. I don't get it, people. Like, what are we trying to do here? Who cares? Like, who really cares? So, yeah, anyway, it'll keep coming out, and I'm sure Sam and I will talk about it on that upcoming show. As I told you, we're going to do that thing, and we're going to shift around the schedule or whatever. So, yeah, it's a big deal. I mean, again, but this is also me. If I'm the one that doesn't think it's a big deal that a bakery doesn't want to make a gay cake, I'm the one that thinks I'm the one who believes in the right to discriminate, because you do too, whether you think you do or not. You absolutely discriminate in everything you do every day of your life. So, this one's different though, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, that's the Cops and McAllister story. All right, so on to my most recent issue with KB. So I've had two. I don't know, did I talk about the wastewater thing? I know I talked about the issue with my septic system a couple of years ago, and I was quite upset to learn that since KUB put a septic line out on the street, a sewer line, out on the street, I was now obligated to, when I needed to do anything, I didn't have to hook up until I had to hook up. And so basically, as soon as they put that sewage line in, I now have zero option in continuing to use septic if there's a problem. So my septic system jams up, calls some plumbers, talks to people about it. It is not resurrectable in the basic levels of, snaking a pipe or something like that and getting it running. It's not a clog issue. It's my septic system is no longer draining correctly into the leach field into my yard and, letting the bacteria do all the things that they do that basically leaves, nutrient-rich fresh water, whatever. It goes into the yard and my plants, my yard, my trees and whatever eats it. Some of the water goes into the water table and gets into the river and all that kind of stuff like normal. So if the system fails and you have to do major work, you can't do major work on it. You have to, by state law in the state of Tennessee, if sewage is available, you have to hook up to it when your septic eventually needs replacement. So I was quite upset about this when the plumber first told me about it. He ballparked me anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000 to redo my septic system, which I would much preferred to have done because it still cost me $6,000 or something like that to hook up to said sewage system. Which the new wrinkle is I didn't really pay attention. I didn't care. I was so mad about it at the time. I was just paying my bills, doing my things, not really checking on it. And so apparently they forgot to add wastewater to my service. So my water's getting pumped out. My turd water's getting pumped out into the sewage or the sewers like it's supposed to, but they're not charged. They just forgot to add it to my account. They discovered this apparently and go back and look and say, holy shit, we've not been charging this guy for wastewater for a year and a half. Well, some law somewhere says they can only go back a year. So I get a call out of the blue from some guy and he's like, hey, just wanted to give you a heads up. Your next bill is going to be a little crazy looking. We found an error that we hadn't been charging you for wastewater over the last year and a half. And by law, we can only go a year back, but it's going to be about $3,000 added to your bill. I said, what? He said, we're trying to make up for what we missed, whatever, blah, blah, blah. It's like, like parts of it's like, well, you fucked up. You deal with it. I'm not paying you for your mistake. But even in that, like, I just thinking about it for half a second, I did the math. That's $250 a month. My average KUB bill is $300. So my average KUB bill is now almost doubled. Not to mention the rate hikes that they put in this year. The changing of rates. They raised rates on electricity and or gas. I don't have gas, but they raised the electrical rates this year as well. They raised those electrical rates to offset some of their expenses in building the broadband system for everybody. So my total KUB bill is jumping significantly from the same time period last year, 2 years ago, whatever, because now everything's lined up correctly. Okay, so again, I'm not even really trying to pitch a fit about this $3,000 bill, other than in 1 year, I have $3,000 in wastewater fees. I spent $7,000 on it. So even if it cost me the high end of what it would have cost me to redo my septic system, I'd already be past break even. I'd be saving money if I still had septic. But the state says I can't. And it's really upsetting because especially who my representatives are, I don't know the history of this bill. I don't know where it came in line. I don't know any of that shit. I don't really care. But I have Becky Massey, and at the time it was Eddie Manis, and now I guess this week or next week they get sworn in officially, but now it's, Elaine Davis or whatever. These people say they're Republicans. Less government interference. Less of us telling you how to live your life. More individual responsibility. Now, I don't know this. Again, you can email me on this one, almostinagreement@gmail.com. I don't know that there's a market difference in the environmental effects of a septic system versus sewage. I'd be really curious if somebody knows the facts on that. Please educate me. I would believe if you told me that it was environmentally superior to let the sewage system do it and go down to the wastewater facility and go through that big process that they do before they release that water back out into the system. I would believe that if you told me that, but also thinking about it, essentially a septic system is a mini version of a wastewater treatment facility anyway. And then periodically you get the company to come out and pump it, and then the major solids get condensed and taken to the dump, which is the same thing that a wastewater facility does too, I believe. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. And so at this point, I am going to be paying $200 to $300 a month in perpetuity for the privilege of KUB deciding they wanted to run a sewer line up my street. Okay, am I Again, please tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm crazy. Because I don't feel that crazy. I feel pretty confident about the ducks in this row adding up. I don't know whether or not it is environmentally preferred to go through sewage. It might be. Like I said, I would believe you if you said that, yeah, the water goes back into the system cleaner when it goes through the sewage plant versus your septic system. I would believe that if you told me it, but I don't know that to be true. And honestly, the more I think about it, the more I don't think it's significantly different if it is. Okay, so that's problem one with KEB I'm having right now. And I guess I'm not really having, it's not KEB's fault, per se, other than they fucked up and I could have been paying it the whole time, and it wouldn't have been such a shocking thing to slap me in the face with the realization of between the cost of getting the plumbers to come out and run the lines and get it set up and hook up to the sewer and less than 1 year or less, 1 year or less of wastewater fees, I would have paid for a full septic system and would be saving money in perpetuity living in this home. Not to mention, that's one of the reasons I liked this house when we bought it. I'd like the idea of being on septic so that I didn't have to pay wastewater. I was excited about that. Silly little shit like we put a pool in, we got an above ground pool. It's nothing classy. It's super redneck. I ain't too proud to say that it's a little trashy, whatever, but we enjoy it. We get in there with the kids. Kids have friends over, they play in the pool and have a great time. It's also like 10,000 gallons or something like that. And KEB doesn't care. They have a once annual allowance that they'll put on your account for pool fill-ups or yard watering or stuff like that. They just kind of throw it on there over the summer. It's not a fixed number. They kind of make it up as they go, as I understand it. Somebody told me once that you can call KEB and be like, hey, I'm filling my pool up, just so you know, put a note on my account. That is not the case, because I did that when I was filling my pool up. And again, this is what's funny about it. It didn't click in my head at the time. I called them and said, hey, I'm filling my pool up. I was told to call you guys to let you know so that you didn't charge me for the wastewater for the gallons and gallons and gallons I'm putting in my pool. And the lady explained to me, it's like, no, we don't do it like that. It's kind of like we just kind of keep an eye on it, and when we see that one big month spike, we'll make an adjustment for you. So it's not necessarily relative, because they could make an adjustment for 8,000 gallons, but I have a 10,000 gallon pool. I don't know if that's the right number, honestly, but you get my point. I don't know that. I don't know how that works. And it doesn't seem like they do in a clear manner either. They just look at it, notice it, and make some number up. If all of a sudden there's a spike in water usage, they credit the account for a bunch of wastewater, assuming that that's something that happens. So for those of you that don't have a pool, once a year, just run your hose for 3 days straight, just for fun, because they don't know you have a pool or not. Like they just do it. They just see a spike in your usage and they cut you a credit. So just for fun, waste a couple thousand gallons of water one day in the middle of the summer just to see what happens. Right. So there's that thing that's in play. I'm getting that on this bill. I'll get to look at it, and like part of my gut reaction, which was stupid, but I just kind of did it anyway. I was like, are you expecting me to pay a $3,000 bill? Plus, because again, this is the other part too, is the more I think about it, it's like, it's a $3,000 bill plus my usage, which is now fucking cold finally, so my bill's going to be higher anyway, because it's more heat and all that kind of stuff going on in the house, plus actual wastewater for the current period, plus this back thing, which it did say, well, we'll let you pay it off, or we'll let you spread it out or whatever, but it's like, even if I spread it out over a year, that's $250 a month. My bill is going to go from $300 to $500 and some change, plus back pay of $250. Am I like that? I'm looking at, I'm going to be paying $700 a month for KEB plus for the next year because of their fuck up, their mistake. And I'm really upset about that. Like, I really think that's like, it's their part. Like, again, part of it, it's like, fuck you. I'm not going to pay $750 a month for the next year to pay you back because you screwed up. You're really fucking with my personal finances here. You're right. I got it for free for a while. I should be grateful and just, pay back what I got. And I'm going to get some for free anyway. And I should be grateful and just shut up and be like, okay, well, at least I got, $1,500 for free, I guess. But I'm not, because I don't want to pay any of it. And I wouldn't have if it was an option. But the state said no. And so Becky Massey, Eddie Manis, as much as you're not there anymore, and I'm bummed that you quit, and I understand the reasoning for it. You put a great interview with Miss Betty Bean, even though she hates me. I appreciated her interview with you over that, and I would like to talk to you more about your experience at the state level. Becky Massey and now Elaine Davis, you get to inherit it. And I'm sorry, because it's going to be an issue for me So that's issue 1 with KUB I'm having right now. So problem 2 with KUB right now is they're cutting trees again, which they do, and that's fine. I get it. Again, the issue I have is not that they perform these duties. Okay, so anyway, let me paint this picture before I start pitching my fit about it. So KUB's tree trim in the neighborhood, right? They're going around, they're cutting trees and limbs and making sure that they're clear of power lines, which I can only assume KUB's predicting this is going to be a rough winter, and they want to make sure that there's not a bunch of limbs over lines so that when the snow comes, that it doesn't drop a limb and break lines, and then people are without power for a period of time. I appreciate that sentiment. I think that's a good idea. Good on you, KUB. Way to get ahead of the curve here. Don't wait for the disaster and fix it. Get preemptive. Great. Awesome. So they've been running around the neighborhood doing that all week. No problem. Whatever. They park their trucks all over the fucking place. It's annoying, but fine. Whatever. So I pick up the little one from school yesterday, and there's a guy at my front door. And he's kind of knocking on my front door. I'm getting the kid out of the car. I've just finished work. I got all sorts of stuff going on. I say, hey, man, what's going on? He's like, hey, we're with whatever tree service. We're contract with KUB. We're doing some tree trimming around some power lines that I need to get I tried to get in your yard. And there was a dog back there, and he was kind of mean or whatever, and I didn't want to go back there. And I feel bad for the guy. It's not his fault per se. It is his fault, but so what I hear him say, what he says, and what I hear him say is that he tried to trespass on my property, and my dog, who is an asshole, it's true, scared him off, and he knocked on the door and got no answer. And I just happened to pull up in time. And so he said, we need to get back there and do some work or whatever. We'll be back in a few minutes. I said, okay. So I go inside. The dog's running in and out like he does. He goes out in the backyard when he wants to because he's a dog, and that's where he does his business. And that's how we live our household. We put a fence up for that reason, so that he would stay in the yard because he is an asshole, but also that he had a place to roam around freely, and we don't have to walk him with a rope all the time and do all that shit. He could run around and play, bark at the neighbor's dog, chase squirrels around the backyard, that whole thing. That's the dog life that we provide for our dog. And so, I'm like, okay, whatever. So I'm thinking about it a little bit. It's like, it's fairly obvious, to be fair. It's fairly obvious that these guys are been in the neighborhood for a week or so now doing all this different work. It would be safe to assume that they are a KUB contractor. But I'm thinking, you know what? I'm a little pissed off right now. I'm going to start with step 1, which I think would be the logical move, is to call KUB and just verify that this company has been contracted by them and they're out cutting trees before I let them in my yard. And so like 20 minutes later, I'm still on hold for that whole 20 minutes with KUB trying to talk to somebody. They come back and knock on the door. And I'm like, listen, guys, I'm not trying to be that guy. But you have to understand that basically your man here told me that he was trying to walk into my backyard and my mean dog scared him off. So am I to understand correctly that the policy of your company and or KUB is that you go on people's property without permission? And he's like, no. And it's like, there was a flyer or something that went out. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to wait for KUB to pick up so I can verify that you're actually a contractor for it. And so they're standing around for a minute. One of them gets the bright idea. They call who they tell me is, and I believe them, to be fair. They tell me is the tree, what was the name? Arborist? It wasn't arborist. Forester for KUB. That's this guy's title. And they hand me the phone, and he talks to me for a little bit and walks me through it. And I kind of lay into him a little bit more because he seems to be a little bit more in a control role. He's telling these guys where they need to go. And so whatever time it was that he came out or whomever came out and looked and said, hey, those trees need to be trimmed or whatever, So I'm like, look, I'm not trying to be that guy, but these guys are just trying to walk into my yard, into my fence where my dog is. And if you guys have listened to the show, my dog has history. My dog has a criminal record, for fuck's sake. What happens if they walk in the door? My dog bites one of them. I don't think they would. They like most people. There's only one person they really don't like, but they mostly like people. He likes people. If you're up at the fence, he's going to bark at you like you're the enemy. But as soon as you get in, and if you're cool with him, he's going to be like, hey, best friend, what's going on? That's how my dog is. But what if he's not? What if these guys walk in and my dog goes and bites one of these guys on the ass? Is that my fault? I wouldn't think so. You know, what happens when my dog bites him in the ass and this guy who hits my dog over the head with a stick and injures my dog or kills my dog? Am I going to get compensated for that? Are they going to pay my vet bills to rehabilitate my dog? Probably not. Or I'm probably going to have to sue and it's going to be a big process. They trespass on my property. I don't think that's my fault that my dog bit him. Or even worse, they come in and out of the fence and they leave the door open. The dog runs out and attacks something else. Or my dog runs out and gets hit by a car. All these options are at play in my head. But these guys are just going to walk in my yard. They would have. If he was inside, if he had been in his crate, because we were out running errands or something like that, which is what we do, they would just I would have come home from running an errand and they would have been in my yard. I would have walked inside, been like, hey, what's that weird noise? And looked out the back window, and there'd be 3 strangers in my yard cutting down my trees. I don't care if KUB sent me a postcard 2 weeks ago. You were trespassing. You need to at least have some sort of at least direct verbal confirmation for me that it's okay that you're back there. And let me clarify it before everybody freaks out on me. I acknowledge easements. I acknowledge the need. I don't know if I do or not. I acknowledge the regularity of the easements that we give the utilities the capability so they can provide these much needed services for us as citizens. I acknowledge that it exists, and I acknowledge that they need to have access to them when they need to be able to make sure that they continue and maintain those lines in order for us to all keep our power, our water, or our lights, or our gas, or our wastewater doing what it needs to do. I understand the idea of what that is, but that does not in any way, shape, or form give them the right, without real notice and real explanation, to enter my private property. And we go through all this kind of shit, and one of the guys says to me, well, we came over here, we tried to go through the condos that are on your backyard, but those people were really hateful to us. And it's like, yeah, I wonder why. You know, and so there's a dozen people that live over there. There's just one that lives here. So you'd rather pick the fight with the one than the dozen. Even though there's clear fucking access to what you need to get to from their side. Like the trees that they're going to trim are 20 feet up in the air where the lines are. They're sure as fuck not getting their bucket truck in my backyard. It's not going to happen. I have a fence. So I don't know how they think they're going to do their job from my side of the fence. But they're coming back tomorrow morning. That was the other part of it too. Went through this whole big thing. They finally come back, and I was waiting on verification and making sure this was legit and all that kind of stuff. And the guy of the threesome that was here to do the work, it's like, hey, it's the end of our work day. We'll be back tomorrow. I was like, after all this, you're not even going to do the job? I said, okay, what time are you going to be back tomorrow? I'll be at work. Well, can you have the dog inside? My dog comes and goes as he pleases. He has a dog door back there. He goes out when he needs to go to the bathroom, or if he wants to chase squirrels, or whatever he wants to do. When are you guys coming back? We'll be back at 7 a.m. How long does the job take? 30 minutes. All right. I can be here from 7 to 7:30. No problem. Be here. So I get up this morning, get the kids ready, do my whole thing, got my coffee. 6:45. These guys should be here any minute. Sweet. Let's get this shit done. I don't want to fucking deal with this anymore. I got that other KUB issue that's pissing me off. 7, 7:05, 7:10, 7:15, 7:30, 7:35. I got to get the little one out the door so I can get him to school on time. 7:40 when I get back from dropping him off at school. Pick up the other one, still not here. Go drop the other one off at 7:45. And I'm out to work for the day. They never showed up. A couple hours later while I'm working, this, what did I call him? The arborist, not arborist. The forester for KUB calls me. He says, hey, man, got those guys in there in the area right now. Can they get on the property to do the work? I was like, they were supposed to be here at 7 o'clock this morning. He's like, what do you mean? I was like, I talked to him, told him that. He's like, well, is the dog away so that they can get back there? I don't know. I'm not at home. I'm at work. Okay, so the dog's not up? I don't know. I'm at work. I'm not at home. I'll be home in a couple hours. They can come by then. But like I said, they told me they'd be here at 7, and I made sure I was here and ready for them at 7 o'clock this morning, and they didn't show up. And he's like, They told you they'd be here at 7? It's like, yeah. He's like, okay, let me call and talk to the team, and I'll call you back. I was like, okay. So he calls me back a little bit ago, or a little bit after that. He's like, they didn't say anything about this 7 o'clock you were talking about. So now I look like a fucking crazy asshole because I'm just making up times they said they were going to be here. But they'll be back at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. So I'll let you guys know on the next show with Sam how this story concludes. But it's just the idea of it. Like, I don't know. Am I crazy off base? almostagreement@gmail.com. Am I crazy off base? That I should just be okay with this because it's the utility board and it's for the community good. So my right to private property, my private property is exempted whenever the fuck KUB wants it. Is that what I'm supposed to be okay with? Because again, let me qualify my statements. I am okay with KUB having access to this. I'm not stopping them from coming in and saying, hey, we're going to do some work on these lines. Okay, cool, guys. When do you want to do that? Excellent. I'll make sure that I have my things, out of my yard. Or that I have somebody here that can keep an eye on it. Because I have things in my yard that aren't cheap. And if you're just going to walk in, I don't know. I mean, fuck, think about it. All right, let me finish this. Fuck, I don't know where I'm at. Yeah, I'm not opposed to KUB doing their work. I'm not opposed to that. I'm not opposed to them contracting out to a third party to do their work. I am opposed to that third party walking onto my property without confirmation from me on what's going on. It's mine. Fuck you. It's mine. Fuck you. You don't get to just walk on. But then it's like, well, what the fuck am I supposed to do? I'm pissing off this contractor, whatever. They'll forget I exist. It doesn't really matter. But this whole back and forth, this guy, this forester at KUB, did I piss him off? Have I annoyed him? Have I made more work for him? Is he going to get vengeful now that I've podcasted about it and spread it to the world? Is he going to get vengeful and come back and just cut all my trees to the stump? Because fuck you, citizen who's being a dick about my guys needing to come in and do the fucking work. People like that exist. I'm not saying this guy is that. But people like that exist. And what's my recourse? Absolute fuck all. Speaking of recourse, emailed Kai Ward, emailed Rhonda Lee, Kim Frazier, emailed Larson J, emailed Massey, and emailed Elaine Davis, all asking for help with my problem with KUB. I need some help. I'm having an issue with KUB. I don't know where to turn. Please help. I'm one of your constituents. So far, no answer. It's a little early. It's a holiday week, too. I get it. But this is going to go down as my new fucking rural metro story. And it's like, God damn it. Like, I get it. Like, I understand the principles of what we're supposed to be working for here. And I'm not an anti-collectivist. As much as I sound like it all the time on the show, I'm not anti-collectivism. I'm anti-forced collectivism. You know, next time KUB wants to do something, they're going to come with fucking hungry sheriff's officers who didn't get their McAllisters for lunch to keep an eye on me because I'm an asshole to their fucking techs. It's unreasonable. It's if we acknowledge, I acknowledge the need. No, I don't. Fuck. I acknowledge the existence of these utility boards, and I acknowledge the premise of why these utility boards exist in their monopolistic fashion. I acknowledge those two things as real. If we are going to approve the idea of a monopoly in a community, then there needs to be strong oversight of said monopoly. Talk to your friends up in Powell and Halls. Talk to them about their water service in Hallsdale Powell. I don't know. How do you not know these stories? I don't know. But Hallsdale Powell's fucking people over sideways. And they get away with it. Because what are you going to do? I mean, in hell, as I understand it, you can't, like, I could go full solar, but I can't unplug. I can't fire KUB. I mean, I can't fire KUB, period. Even if I did go full solar. I can't fire KUB. I can't dig a well. It's against state law or county law or something like that. Actually, I don't know. I need to look into that one. Maybe a well's an option for me. I could create my own water from the ground underneath my home. But I can't do anything with my wastewater. My wastewater must go into the KUB system. It would be interesting if I got well water, what they would charge me for wastewater, because it's based on your water usage, and they won't know my water usage if I had a well. I'll bet you. I mean, I don't know the fact of it, but I guarantee you I can't pull a well here. almostinagreement@gmail.com. If somebody knows who to ask on that one. But, I can't build a well. Pretty sure. I can't do anything with my wastewater except go to sewage by state law. I have no other access to electricity. I don't have gas built into this house, but if I did, I would have only one access to gas in this home. And I don't have strong oversight to make sure that a company that doesn't need to give a shit about me has to give a shit about me. It'd be easy. I mean, it should have been instantaneous. I shot an email to Kyle Ward, said, "Hey man, I'm having a problem with KUB." Should have been instant automatic reply from Kyle Ward, or they have a secretary. The commission as a whole has one secretary that works for all 9 of them, who I assume screens emails. It should have been, as soon as that email came in, that secretary said, "Oh, this person needs to be connected with the Utility Oversight Board," which is a board that exists, that is an appointed body by the commission and the mayor's office. I know they exist. I guess I could have taken the extra step and gone and sought them out myself. Either way, it doesn't matter. All 3 of these commissioners that I've emailed should have instantly hooked me up with somebody from the Utility Oversight Committee so that I could talk to them and get a better understanding of what's going on. Massey and I guess Mann is technically still, I don't know what to do with him. Like, I don't understand the state law part of it. Like, I don't understand how that law exists. I don't, I mean, I do. It's got to be, no, it doesn't. It's just, my assumption is, my tinfoil hat assumption is that law exists to support the utilities, to put them in a position to make more income so that they can sustain their utility model and keep everything else working. Make it better for them to do their business. With my business, get it? So that's my KUB stories of the week. It's fucking, I'm sitting here and I'm doing this and I'm talking to myself legitimately because there's nobody else in the room. I don't have any of my normal back and forth people. But even as I'm telling the story, I feel crazy. Like, I feel legitimately crazy. Like, I feel like I'm somehow in this weird, like, state where I can see this different, like, where I do see this differently than everybody else. Everybody else just quietly says, okay, because. Not in a bad way per se, but just kind of like, blindly goes. It's the same thing that we say about voting and stuff like that. They blindly check the R box. They blindly do this. They take a selfie with their I voted sticker and feel like they're a part of this machine, when this machine could give a fuck less about any of us. It only gives a fuck about those of us that actually pay attention. And the more I pay attention, the more often I'm pissed off about it, and it really sucks. And I feel crazy. Like, I feel legitimately crazy. Same thing I argue with Sam with, like, this Ukraine fucking debacle continues. And nobody can tell me why it matters, why it's important, why billions of our dollars go over there. And you know what? I have a third topic I'm going to cover. It's going to be longer than I meant to. Sorry, people. So, yeah. So the last one is just because the one thing I'm going to dabble, and I'll try to keep it short, into some of the national political scene. So Katie Porter, you guys probably remember it. She's House for Senator, I forgot. I'm sorry. And she was grilling some banker or something like that about, minimum wage and all this kind of shit. And she's got a little whiteboard and she goes down and does the math. And I get the math and the math's right. And I screwed up on the math because I'm an idiot. And shout out to Stephen Michael, among other people who call me out for my bad math. But it's like, at $16.50 an hour at 40 hours a week for 52 weeks, that's $35,000 a year. After taxes, that's $29,000 a year. Divide that by 12, you get $2,425 a month. Take home. $1,600 for, which I don't know where she is, that she's calling a $1,600 one-bedroom bath. This theoretical person is supposed to be a single mom with one kid. $100 for utilities must be nice. $250 for a car payment. $150 for gas for their car. $402 for what the USDA considers low-cost food for one adult and one child. That puts it at a total of minus $77 a month. You had $40 a month for a phone, and then $450 for after-school child care. Brings this person at a net negative $567. And so I pointed out, poorly, in bad math's sake, but nobody wants to talk about that $6,000 a year that we're taking out in taxes on this person. And the only solution to this is to go up in what we're paying and what we're forcing companies to pay. Nobody wants to talk about the $1,600 a month cost of a one-bedroom apartment. Nobody wants to talk about $450 a month in food costs. No, but the easy solution is just make the companies pay more. And the thing that drives me most nuts about this is that it's not even this stupid lazy argument, which is a pretty easy one to make, though, is that if McDonald's and Kroger and everybody else starts paying $20 an hour, that money's going to go somewhere. Even if they're a selfless company, and they give that some of their current profits up, a box of Ritz crackers is going to go up a nickel, a dime, whatever. Everybody's been watching it happen for the last year for a multitude of reasons. Some of it being corporate greed, and those guys are fucking dicks, and they shouldn't do that. But who's to say? And so it's like it's this simplification, and which I was guilty of very early in this process. But it's not even that. It's like it is that simple. It is the simple enough to say there's a lot of shit that's going to go into this to fix this, and a start would be, $6,000 a year. You're making, what did I say? What was the math? This person is theoretically making $29,000 or $35,000 a year before taxes. We just take $6,000 off the top, just like that, like it's nothing. $6,000 off the top of 45. What's the math, people? 45, 15, 18, 20% of their annual income. Poof. Where does it go? Don't fucking tell me schools, because that's wrong. Where does it go? Right now it goes to Ukraine. That's where it goes. Right now it goes to Boeing and Halliburton and Lockheed Martin. That's where that $6,000 for this poor single mom goes. Because you know what? That $450 that mom's spending in food, that $40 she's spending on her phone, the sales taxes in the state of Tennessee related to that go to the state of Tennessee, and then that comes back for our schools. And yes, I fucking know that the school grant or the federal government grants money for schools and kicks back money into schools and shit like that. But on a whole, does that single mom get $6,000 a year worth of value of their federal government? Federal government, not state, not local. Federal government. What does the federal government do for that single mom every year that is worth $6,000 a year to that woman? Interstates? Fuck no, this woman ain't traveling. She's losing $450 a month to be alive. She's not traveling anywhere. She doesn't need an interstate. She's driving to and from work, to and from after school care, to and from daycare when the kid's not in school and she's working, to and from the doctor's office, to and from the grocery store to spend that $450 of the USDA minimum low cost functional amount of money that you could spend for a one adult, one child household. National defense? I don't know. Where's the money go? But no. Let's just make it $20 an hour. Make minimum wage $20 an hour. Make her boss pay for what the federal government takes from her. Not to mention another good fun math thing that I'm going to screw up or whatever, but the employer pays twice that. Well, not twice that. Matches that. So if she's paying $6,000 a year, this theoretical single mom, she's paying $6,000 a year in income tax. The employer's paying $6,000 a year plus in employee taxes. So raise this person's salary just $1 an hour. The federal government's going to take $6,500 a year in income tax from that person. They're going to take $6,500 a year in employment taxes. So $1 an hour costs more than $1 an hour to that employer. I know it's a weird concept. It's hard to keep up with it. I don't know the exact maths on it, but that's how it works. Who do you think the number one beneficiary of a raise minimum wage is? The federal government. Because who do you think pays the bulk of taxes? Poor people. We already know that. Everybody talks about that all the time. So if poor people make more money, but they're still fucking poor, and they will be, the federal government just makes more income tax. because poor people can't fight it when they come get audited, which traditionally is the most common people to get audited. But whatever. There's some statistical demographic math that makes sense that it's not a strategic thing that the IRS goes after poor people. It's that there's just more poor people. So if they do 100 audits, 98 of them are going to be poor because, only 2% or whatever is above the poor level. So, potato, tomato, whatever you want to say. Moral of the story is I don't disagree with whatever this senator, congressperson is, that there's an issue when $16.50 an hour, which is well above minimum wage, more than twice minimum wage in some states, is not enough to live on. But I'm so exhausted with the only solution being force employers to pay more. Because the thing about it that I don't think a lot of people think about is because when people hear it, they think McDonald's. They think Amazon. They think Walmart. They think Kroger. Big, giant, multi-billion-dollar companies. What happens to, I don't know, just the little mom-and-pop grocery store? The handful of them that are fucking left. The little tiny Butler and Bailey right here around the street, down the street from my house. Butler and Bailey, what happens to Butler and Bailey when they have to double, more than double, their payroll because the federal government says so? Does Butler and Bailey ownership take a hit? Maybe some. Maybe they try. They care about their employees. I know they do. I've met them. I've met at least the managers there. They seem like really down to earth, serious people. They want to put a good little grocery store together. What happens to, I don't know, Randy Burleson could probably afford it, I guess, but what happens to the Aubreys or the Union Jacks or Union Place? Because Aaron Nelson and Jen Nelson are friends of mine. I'll use them as an example. Go check them out. They've got a couple places. Apparently, they have a marina down Union Landing down in that next county over. If you like that boat life, but what happens to them? And if I remember the statistic correctly, the small business, like true small business, not the weird 100 employee, the small business definition is under 100 employees, which is crazy, but businesses that employ less than 20 people employ the majority of people in the United States. Most people in the United States work for companies that are less than 100 people. I know that's true. I don't remember exactly how it all breaks down, but the majority of people in the United States work for companies that employ less than 100 people. There's this giant blind spot, I guess is the best way to put it. There's a giant blind spot for most companies because we only think in our heads when it's these fucking assholes only pay minimum wage at McDonald's. And we only think McDonald's. We only think Burger King. We only think Taco Bell. We only think Walmart and Target and Amazon and Sam's Club and these big giant conglomerate behemoths. That's all we ever think about when we're talking about those motherfuckers need to pay more. Those motherfuckers need to pay more in taxes. What happens when we go to $20 an hour and Walmart, who can afford to pay it, starts paying it? What happens to that cool little trinket mom and pop, boutique that sold some cool stuff when they can't employ anybody? They can't afford a $20 an hour employee. And even if they could, those $20 an hour employee are going to Walmart or going to Sam's Club or going to Target. That place is gone. They can't employ people. They can't work there all the time by themselves. They need to employ people. Plus, it's good for the community for them to employ people. But they can't do it because we forced their employees out. We did, as a community. If this is a legal thing that we're going to enforce upon the nation, we are going to murder the smallest businesses, the entrepreneurs, the up-and-comers. The next cool, hip place to hang out will be destroyed or will never open if we follow this path. I don't even begin to disagree that there's a problem with the cost to live in America. There's a serious problem with that. There's also a serious problem with what the expectation of being an American is. I'll save that for a later show. I'm going long. But there's a problem with what it costs to live as an American. A one-bedroom place for $1,600 is crazy. It's crazy. You should be owning a 3-bedroom house for that kind of money. These are the things that need to be looked at. That is the conversation that needs to be had. Those are the problems. Why does it cost so much? Not why do they pay so little? Does that make sense? almostagreement@gmail.com. I promised a short show. It still is a short show compared to our normal long. Anyway, thanks everybody. Have a great night. So, semi-short show. I'm only half a lamb. Anyway, these are the things. This is what I do. This is what I like to talk about. I wish my guys were here because I'd like to have some back and forth with them because for me, I am often off the cuff. I'm always off the cuff. I don't do like deep dive research into stuff because I just can't. I don't have time. Just like most of us out there don't have time. Which is why I say if you could correct me on any of this stuff, almostagreement@gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, hit me up. Tell me I'm an idiot. And correct me, but don't just correct me because you say so. Correct me with some facts. I will go read them. I will go watch a video. I will do whatever it is to better understand the situation. But at the end of the day, we need to be able to talk about stuff. We need to be able to get through it, and we need to be able to, actually pick on things that are important. We don't need to be talking about Ukraine. We sure as shit don't need to be talking about sheriff's deputies getting mad they didn't get a goddamn sandwich. We need to be talking about real injustices, real problems, and how to actually fix them. So, forget minimum wage. Let's talk about how to actually fix the cost of living in America. That's a good start for me. But anyway, I'm excited. almostagreement.com. Check it out. Again, we're going to shift show times and stuff like that, so the next couple episodes might get a little weird for you. But make sure you're subscribing. Tell your friends about us. Good night, everybody.